Hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching Policy Watch with your host Kriti Mishra. In a significant overhaul of the corporate social responsibility rules, the Corporate Affairs Ministry has introduced several changes to the CSR framework, including mandating impact assessment for big CSR projects and revamping the reporting formats of the board report. The other major changes include mandatory disclosure of all CSR projects and activities besides CSR committees' composition on the company's website. These changes are based on the recommendations made by the high-level committee on CSR. CSR is generally understood as being the way through which a company achieves a balance of economic, environmental, and social imperatives while addressing the expectations of the stakeholders and shareholders. And for deeper insights, I'm joined by Dr. Subhash Chandra Pandey, former Special Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and Mrs. Rumjhum Chatterjee, Co-Chairperson, CII, National Committee on CSR. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, both of you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pandey, coming to you first. Take us through the key highlights of the 2021 amendment rules to the CSR framework.
Kriti, this CSR framework is governed by Section 135 of the Companies Act as amended, Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, and these rules which have come into effect from 22nd January. So basically, any company which has 5 crore net profit or 500 crore net worth or 1000 crore turnover, these are the alternative criteria, the profit in terms of a last 3 years average, then it is expected was 2% of this average profit to be spent on CSR. Earlier, it was voluntary, where the companies would either spend or explain why it could not be spent. Now, with the latest amendment and with the rule, the first major change is that this has become mandatory. So, to that extent, it is as good as a supplementary corporate tax with the flexibility that for this additional 2% corporate tax, the companies have some control on the end use, and they can derive some benefits, some feel-good factor, which they can address to their stakeholders, shareholders, in which environment it operates. So to that extent, it is a win-win for the government and the business sector. The important changes are that the earlier, even when it was voluntary, the companies were resorting to certain practices which will reduce the actual CSR expenditure through various mechanisms of clawback, that it would come back to the company in some form or the other. So those provisions have been tightened. For example, one of the major changes is that a company can implement CSR through an implementing agency, yes, which has to be a Section 8 company, which is a not-for-profit company, or a registered public trust. So no private trust can be an implementing agency there. Then all implementing agencies have to register with MCA. That is another, that will also impose certain obligations, certain reporting obligations. Then the company board and the CSR committee of the board of directors, their role has been expanded. How they will approve the plan, how will they give a year-end report to the shareholders and general public, and the disclosures on web page. So all this is a transparency mechanism. Another important change is that earlier several inclusive definitions were there as to what constitutes CSR. So since the scope of CSR is very wide, listing particular activities which will be CSR, instead of that approach, now the ministry has gone with an exclusive. It says practically everything will constitute CSR except the following. So what would not constitute CSR, that has been spent. So if a company is spending for the welfare of its own employees, it cannot tag it as a CSR expenditure. If the company is incurring any expenditure in meeting any of its statutory obligations, say under wage code or new labor codes, so that will not constitute. So basically, whatever you are supposed to do in normal part of your business, nothing of that can be tagged as CSR. It has to be something more than that. So even marketing, some sponsored activities for deriving marketing benefit, that would also not constitute. So these are some of the major. I'll take you to some more.
All right, sir. Those
That
were the
matters
key
a bit.
highlights and those were the key takeaways. But before we get into the specifics of the new CSR rules, Mrs. Chatterjee, I'd like to understand that in India, with the enactment of the Companies Act 2013, it has now become mandatory for the companies to take up CSR projects on social welfare activities. India, in fact, is the only country which has regulated and mandated CSR activities to be undertaken by certain categories of companies. Tell us about the importance of taking up CSR initiatives and integrating them into the business processes.
Okay, let me start by saying that I think the amendments are very topical, and I think it's come at the right time because while it was introduced a few years ago, industry, and remember when I speak of industry, we must understand that 70% of industry today is small and medium enterprises, right? Some of whom may not also have the wherewithal to conceptualize a project under CSR, implement it, report back, and all the compliances around that. So what these amendments have done is clarified a whole lot of issues, clarified the definitions, what it means if you haven't been able to spend all of the money, the ability to roll it over, to be able to then, for those companies that are anyway doing a lot of CSR work, what this has done is that while making it mandatory, we are actually getting industry to become socially responsible. There is a lot of inequality that exists. We know that that has to be bridged, and therefore, all stakeholders, and I consider industry as one of the stakeholders along with government, in trying to make sure that we are able to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and also take care of a whole lot of social issues that will improve the quality of life of all citizens in India. So from that point of view, I think making it mandatory will drive that focus. Second thing that I believe that industry has welcomed as far as the amendments are concerned is that a lot of large industries were anyway undertaking a lot of philanthropy work as well as other CSR work, even before it became mandatory to do that. When a pandemic of the kind of COVID that we have seen hits the nation, industry has stepped forward in a major way at every stage of the process. Initially, it was relief, rehabilitation. Now we are looking at ways to engage industry to help enhance and accelerate the vaccination program. So the amendments to the CSR rules have actually made it possible for industry to pivot their CSR programs and help in that process.
All right, ma'am. Mr. Pandey, I'd like to understand how do the new rules enable corporations to undertake multi-year CSR projects, and what would mandatory impact assessment mean for the industry?
First of all, the multi-year project is at most for the 3 years. You cannot have very, very long run period. And for 3 years, if you have earmarked a multi-year project CSR budget, and at the end of the year, whatever is the carry forward of that particular project, it will go into a separate escrow account, which is within the control of the company, but it is dedicated only for spending on that project in next 2 years or next 1 year, as the case may be. For the share of net profit for which there is a net shortfall in CSR, there is a new mechanism of a national CSR fund where it is something like for the banks, you used to have priority sector lending obligation. And the particular foreign banks who could not meet the foreign priority sector lending target, for them a mechanism evolved that they could deposit that and give it to NABARD or something, so that they will take on further. So in a similar fashion, borrowing that idea, some companies, if for some reason, if they are not able to spare 2% of net profit on this year, that amount they can transfer to a national fund, and from there the government can thus fund those activities. So, and the impact assessment is also for large projects of 10 crore or above. This is also an important thing for even for government sector schemes and programs. There are various appraisals, independent studies, third party evaluation, audits, oversights. So since it is supplementing mostly social sector spending, if you see the Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, the activities which are broadly the CSR domain, it is in the social sector, whether it's education, health, social service, relief, rehabilitation, social business. So in these sectors, these are soft expenditures. Accountability for results is not as quickly establishable as, say, in case of hardcore infrastructure or industries. So therefore, reputed international evaluation and provided,
Yes, sir.
they can be entrusted to assess how far the evaluation of impact. And we can see it in the larger context where India is also party to the universal commitment to meet the sustainable development goals by 2030. And some of those programs of basic minimum needs, we are trying to accelerate to meet even by 2025. So this will come handy in supplementing the efforts of the government in meeting those SDG goals.
All right, let me take that to Mrs. Chatterjee. Mrs. Chatterjee, do you think that these rules will prove to be a game changer in ensuring ease of doing business as well and also achieving the sustainable development goals, ma'am?
I think so. I think what we are finding is that industry is coming forward, and I think the rules now will help them to align their efforts in a manner that fits in with what has been outlaid in the CSR laws. But more importantly, I think we are finding that industry is anyway putting their shoulder to the wheel. What we now have to work on is to ensure that they undertake projects that will meet the objectives as laid out in Schedule 7, that there is monitoring of that project so that we are able to report back with specific outcomes in the manner that they were desired. And for that, the boards have been placed with a lot of onus to oversee this. Now, in some of the companies which are larger companies, there is it has been specified that there will be a CSR committee that will report to the board. But for the smaller companies, there is no need to have a separate CSR committee. The board is mandated to oversee that. So the reporting, we hope, will actually fetch us will lead us to the getting to the goals that we all want, which are aligned to SDGs anyway. But it's important to handhold both the corporate as well as the implementing partner to ensure that the plans are very well laid out, that outcomes are reported, and the monitoring is done on a regular basis. And I think in a few years, if this rigor of reporting continues, I'm sure that we will be well on the way to achieve our SDGs.
Dr. Pandey, just for a better understanding for our viewers, what are these implementing agencies and what are the new rules for these implementing agencies under the new CSR framework?
The implementing agencies have to fall in two categories. One are the public registered trusts, which could be and the central and state government funds, where this surplus can be transferred. In terms of implementing agency, a central government or a state government agency or a public registered trust or a Section 8 company. Section 8 company in this Companies Act is a not-for-profit company which has its own obligations on reporting, disclosure, and not entering into the kind of commercial activities, no conflict of interest with the parent company which may have sponsored this as a implementing agency. So that is it. And another small correction I want to say in terms of this impact assessment that I mentioned.
Yes, sir.
The impact assessment obligation is for companies which have more than 10 crore CSR expenditure in 3 preceding years, the large expenditure. But individual projects that are subject to impact assessment may be 1 crore or more. So that is the thing.
All right.
So with this, basically it is a private trusts which are out of the reckoning of implementation, which have been the various foundations which are in the private trust.
All right, sir. So let me take that to Mrs. Chatterjee. Mrs. Chatterjee, how would the new rules boost transparency and flexibility also in corporate governance?
No, I think I'd just like to add to what Dr. Pandey has said,
Ma'am, please
that
go
it
ahead.
is also possible for the organizations to undertake the implementation of projects themselves if they have the capacity. So that allows the flexibility, provided they are able to actually carry out the projects and achieve the outcomes from that project and report back. Again, I go back to the important point, the board is mandated to oversee that.
Yeah.
Right. But I'd just like to expand the scope of the debate. Dr. Pandey, we were talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you think the pandemic has put corporate social responsibility to the test, and how has it fared?
Yes, during the pandemic, we saw the contributions to PM CARES Fund were open to CSIR through an amendment, and it attracted a large amount of funding for that, which have gone into many projects, including vaccine development. It is creditable that the country has started and rolled out a vaccine in a year's time. And we are now going in a fast track mode on vaccination drive. One of the important amendments in this, when I mentioning that companies need not do anything which they are, what is their normal business is not to be CSR. But only exception that has been made for this is the healthcare related. So if a company is engaged in something relating to vaccine development, distribution, and other pandemic related healthcare aspect, that would be an exception where even if it is company's normal business, it will be included in the CSR. Then, so the healthcare itself is included in the permissible CSR activity. So in particular domains in the catchment area where companies operate, if they want to take up drives, say for example, vaccination or other things, that would be perfectly legitimate CSR activity. So through this mechanism, and of course social justice, elimination of extreme hunger and poverty, and so poverty alleviation programs in the neighborhoods that operate, and healthcare. So there is a tremendous scope. As I said, it is additional corporation tax with the flexibility for the companies to decide how that additional corporate tax will be spent. Normally, there is no quid pro quo. When we pay taxes, we don't control how that money is. This is an additional tax where the taxpayer controls how the money is spent, and that he derives satisfaction out of it. That's the beauty of this arrangement.
But there are also difficulties of compliance. Mrs. Chatterjee, I'd like to understand from industry perspective, what are difficulties as far as CSR compliance is concerned?
Once again, I will repeat what I said. Industry today is 70% comprised of small and medium enterprises. For them to conceive of a project which is outside the domain of their own work, right, is difficult. Then to find a partner who is going to do that for them is difficult. The compliance also is rigorous. And then, so therefore, for the small and medium enterprises, there are challenges in making, a good progress on their CSR objectives. So from CII, what we had done, we had realized this. And therefore, we said that let us pick up larger projects and get the smaller companies to contribute to that, so that we are getting the outcomes that are desired, and the smaller enterprises are not taxed by way of wanting to know how to therefore get started or even monitor it. So they would then contribute either by saying that we would put our CSR funds for the implementation of such projects, or some of them would also contribute by getting their people concerned who have that knowledge and can therefore be part of the implementing teams that are there. That is working better. They are able to therefore realize that in what way they are actually making an impact. They can see the results, and that gives them the confidence to now get started on other projects as well on their own. So that is certainly a good step forward. The other is really on understanding the compliances and the rigor of those compliances. I think Dr. Pandey has specified that it is kind of a tax, and that is something that industry felt, saying it's not by making it mandatory, you might as well call it a 2% additional tax that industry has to pay. What I think has to be realized is that it is indeed a spend which will help us improve the lot of the people. And so we must look at it from the point of view of being socially responsible and ensuring that we are, as a nation, contributing to bring these social development indices a notch higher than where we are. So,
Dr. Pandey, do you agree?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Dr. Pandey?
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yes, very much. Yes, very much.
So, what are the challenges ahead and how can the government address them?
No, for the challenges as specified in terms of a capacity of MSMEs to undertake, as a CII and other industry bodies can help create the projects and platforms, and even going forward, even Section 8 companies to take up. So all the mechanisms are very well there. As I gave the example of priority sector lending, if you cannot implement yourself, you have a mechanism where you can fund it. Yes. You can fund it to the national fund, or you can join with another big company's partner with the project. So various options are there. So I don't think compliance as such is going to be the issue now, because flexibility is there. If it were there that you have to do all yourself, then certainly it would have been that I should concentrate on my business and not get into implementing a social sector project. That burden is gone. So mechanisms are there, flexibility is there. You can focus on you can provide funding for socially relevant projects.
All right, before we end this conversation, Mrs. Chatterjee, closing comments from you.
I think we are headed in the right direction, and I hope that if everybody takes their work seriously, we will have a better India very soon.
All right, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. So that's all we had for you in this edition of Policy Watch. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV.